All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of The Weekly Quarantine, which is a new podcast that we are going to look at what everyone around the world is doing with their quarantine. My name is Lindsay Griffiths, and I am your host. And today with us is our guest, Heidi Smith. She is calling in from Melbourne, Australia. So Heidi, if you want to take a couple seconds to introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of an overview of what you are doing down in Melbourne and how the quarantine is affecting you, and then we'll get into our questions.
Hello, thanks Lindsay for having me on your podcast. There's a little bit of background noise here. I hope that's not too bad. My name's Heidi Smith. I'm an interior designer and a partner of an architecture firm here in Melbourne, Australia. I was lucky enough to meet the lovely Lindsay through running, and we actually caught up when she visited Melbourne 2 years ago now, so it's been a long time. It's been interesting. I think I'm pretty lucky to be living in a country that's taken a fairly considered and controlled approach to this pandemic that we're experiencing. Generally, the entire country is on what we're calling stage 3. So that is stay at home unless you need to be outside for essential services. So you're allowed to go and exercise. You're allowed to go to the shops. You're allowed to go and do your work if it is considered essential, and you're allowed to care for family members, so for healthcare, and of course receive medical treatment. So they're pretty much restricted all other movements and encouraging people to stay at home. All of the regular restrictions as well around social distancing. Ours is 2 meters, so a little bit further than 6 feet, but about the same distance. 2 meters away from people. The shops that are still open have markings on the pavement now and on the floor of their stores to encourage people to stay at the right distances. Pretty much all bars, restaurants, cafes are all closed. Those that are open are doing takeaway and delivery only. Gyms, theatres, churches, all of those things are all closed. About the only industry that is still operating on site or in place is the construction industry, which is something that I'm a part of and grateful for, but there's going to be challenges with that as we move through this process. So yeah, really interesting times here.
Yeah, it certainly is. That's very similar to the situation that we're in my state, but for us, it's been a state by state consideration. So we are, it really just depends on which state you're in. We haven't made the countrywide decision yet to
Yeah.
stay home. So hopefully we'll get there soon. Yeah, very similar to
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah.
So we're looking to do in this podcast, stay positive. I think quarantine is tough on everybody to stay home
Yep.
and and stay apart, but I think there can be some silver linings in there. So the questions are going to be sort of in that vein, and obviously we understand that a lot of people are in a tough position, but there I think can be some things that we can get out of this. So my first question for you is, what are you finding that you're grateful for during this this quarantine period?
I think that it's the usual things. I feel like this is a little bit of a canned response, but it's the simple things in life that I am actually grateful for. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my the fact that I'm fit and healthy, and that I and that at low risk, and I know that sounds a little bit selfish, but I think that it puts me in a position to provide better assistance to those that aren't in that position. So if I can stay that way, then I think that's really great. I'm of course grateful for my partner, my husband. Matt and I are having fun challenges doing all this work from home business, but we've both got a great sense of humour and we're there for each other. And I think that it's lucky that I have someone in the house with me that we can lean on each other. I'm of course grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends, and I'm grateful that I'm honestly, that I'm in a country that's being fairly considered and responsible. And I feel like that, that puts me in a good position. But having said all of that, I'm very aware of the privilege that I have of having those things. I'm aware of the privilege I have that I have a job that is able to be done from home in a crisis. And I think that that's really the interesting point of view. We're not all choosing to work from home. We're working from home in a crisis. So I'm lucky that my job is doing that. And, other people in our community are not so lucky. People have lost their jobs. People are putting themselves in the front line, our healthcare workers, our bus drivers, our cleaners and council workers, etc. And really, I'm choosing to stay home for them. So, I'm grateful for the things I have, but I'm also very aware that not everybody has those things as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And I feel like for me, that sort of amplifies my level of gratitude for those things, because I know that I am in a position of privilege, being able to stay home, being able to be in a safe place, because there are other people that don't have that opportunity to be home and as safe as I am. I have a lot of friends in healthcare who are, as they put it, playing virus roulette every day.
Yeah.
It's just overwhelming to hear a lot of the
Yeah.
stories, and to know that I have the opportunity to stay home and to make the choices not to go out and congregate with other people. It really, that makes me much more grateful for the position that I'm in.
Yeah. And I think that it can be framed in a way that we're doing it for those other people. I know that it's tough, and I know that it's roulette for our healthcare workers, but we really need them. And if I can help them by actually not adding to the hospital pressures and all of those sorts of things, then that's really what we should be focusing on, is that whilst we have this privilege and the ability to do that, we also probably have a responsibility to use that privilege properly and to actually do everything we can to help those who are out there fighting this disease, head on, giving them everything they can to be able to do that by, not going and doing something that will, break my leg and take a bed in a hospital, so that it's that kind of attitude, I think, is helpful, and that, you can make us feel positive about staying home and finding the good in doing so.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So who are you connecting with while you're staying at home? I find that I'm connecting with people I haven't talked to in a long time,
Yeah.
which has been very interesting. So are you finding the same thing? Who are you connecting with?
Absolutely. So I think that connection has taken a new level of importance. And for me personally, that's the silver lining. I mean, I'm a talker, I'm a people person. So the more I can speak with people and connect with people, the happier I am. So I'm really enjoying the fact that this opportunity has given us this chance to really explore new ways of connection. So, of course, my workmates are still my highest connection with me. A lot of our work is team-based. A lot of our work is working with not only the team within our office, but the team of other consultants outside of our office. So we're all together, working on a project with a common goal. So those connections have been really quite fun, and finding new ways of really developing those connections. So with my workmates, we've done things like we've had Zoom Friday night, cocktail hour. We've sent the cocktail recipe out on an email prior. Then everybody's got on, and we've all got our cup, and we're all, yahooing and carrying on. So that's actually been quite fun, because it's just such a weird and novel experience. It might lose its uniqueness over time, but nonetheless, for now, it's been really good. But you are absolutely right. The one thing that I've found in the last couple of weeks is that I'm reaching out to my friends, I'm reaching out to my family a lot more. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing that, but I think it was more scheduled. So it was, we would arrange to have dinner with my mum and her husband, or I was going to a concert with a girlfriend. But now, instead of just not going or just not doing that, we're looking for other ways to connect. a lot of the communications is done with friends was done over email and text message, whereas now I find I'm picking up the phone to actually hear a voice. So I think that it's those sort of connections that are a little bit different. Yeah, I think it's, you know, I just think that that's a silver lining, is such an opportunity for us to reach out. You know, this even is an example of, you know, you and I chat over social media and there's, you know, little comments here and there, but to have a real conversation, like, how wonderful. And, you know, maybe this is something we can keep doing. It's those opportunities that I think is the real silver lining with connection here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking for those good things to try something new. And of course, a lot of my job is about business development. So meeting my contacts and colleagues and potential clients and finding new ways of doing that. So that's been quite an exciting experience to talk to some, especially I've got a whole lot of boomers out there that are part of my crew, and sort of going, no, it's going to be fine. We'll do it on Zoom. It'll be great. Trust me. So that's fun. Yeah.
Dragging everyone into the 21st century.
Yeah, right. I know. It's fascinating. Look, I mentioned at the top that I'm an interior designer. My specialty is actually workspace design. That's what I do. I plan and design working environments, predominantly offices for people. So there's the professional part of me has a bit of a fascination of, right, now we are all having to work agile. I mean, how many conversations I've had with CEOs and managing directors saying, would you like to consider these different ways of working? This is the future of working, etc. Oh, no. We're very special. We must all be face to face. We must be sitting next to each other. I must be able to see my staff. Well, guess what, guys? That's not happening now. So how's it working? And maybe we'll learn some new things. Maybe we'll find new ways of connecting with each other. Maybe it will turn into a whole different, you know, what's the office going to look like on the other side of this experience? Does it become something else? Does it become a place of team contact and creative energy rather than the spot where you sit and do the work? So I don't know. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I work with lawyers, and some of them have said, you know, having to move the entire office to remote working has made them think, like, do we really need the expensive overhead that we've been paying in rent? You know, is this going to change things? So I think you're totally right. A lot of them are now thinking, what is this going to mean for the future? And in a lot of senses, they've thought before, well, we've always done things this way. We don't need to change it. And they're thinking, oh, maybe we could change it and it would be much more efficient and effective for us. So
Exactly. Yeah. And lawyers are part of that group in the last bastion of the fixed, must have an office, like not even a desk, like it's got to be an office with walls and a door. So
right.
Yeah, it'll be a good experience. Maybe I have a nice little group there. We can do a little survey with them.
Yes. Very curious to see what happens in the future, for sure.
Exactly.
All right. So we're talking about what lawyers and what other clients might be letting go of. What are you letting go of in this pandemic?
Yeah, this is an interesting question for me because I'm not sure what it is specifically I'm trying to let go of. I thought about this, you know, I think it might be pressure or stress, I'm not sure. But what I am doing is that I'm trying to create a sense of calm and order in our home. We are working from home is going to be stressful. We're going to be on top of each other. We're living, working out, all in about 100 square feet. I did the math. We've got a couple of bedrooms, but one of those bedrooms is pretty much a box room and not suitable for setting up a working environment. And as a result, our living space, which was a lovely large dining living area, is now a work zone, a gym zone, and a living eating zone. And so that's, you know, that's pretty stressful. Both my husband and I, we're loud, we're high energy, we're fill the space kind of people. We're going to get on each other's nerves by the end of this time, I think. So I'm feeling like if I've got a sense of calm and a sense of order, I'm hoping that that will translate into a more calm environment overall, given the factors of space and big personalities occupying that space. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking for. Like thinking about is that trying to keep that pressure low, I suppose, and not be. I'm a clean freak as well. The guys at work call me Tidy Heidi. So if everything is at least in its place and in order, and we're not tripping over ourselves, just to move around, I think that that's the key for me, is having that sense of calm. Look, the other thing is, Matt and I are both, we like things just so. So we have put in quite a strict routine. Now, we've only both been working from home for a week today. The week before that, we were transitioning our teams out of the office. So as leaders in our office, we both wanted to be there for the last person, to help them out the door, sort of thing. So whilst our teams have been doing this for a couple of weeks now, for us personally, we're starting week 2. Mm-hmm. So we've put quite a strict schedule in place. So we get up, we do our exercise, whether it's go for a run or do an online gym thing here, have breakfast, do our work day. Oh, we actually, shower and get dressed in our work clothes, do our work day. And then when the work day is declared finished, we actually get out of our work clothes and into like sweatpants and comfy jumpers to almost declare, right, now no, we're no longer at work and we're now at home time. And I think that so far that's working really well for us. It's introducing lovely new habits. I'm learning how to make coffee. I'm a complete and utter coffee snob who's never made a coffee in her life. So I now make coffee as part of the breakfast ritual for both of us, and I'm really enjoying it. And guess what? I'm getting good at it, and it tastes pretty nice.
I'm surprised because I know how much you love coffee. So.
Oh yeah. I think the key was getting my favorite coffee shop to grind me some beans before they closed.
Oh,
so
good. I've
got the good coffee with the correct grind for my Violetti so that I can make it properly. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's important.
So good. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it's letting go of pressure and stress, but doing that in a positive manner, creating a positive environment and a calm environment to keep that at bay. That's what I think it is anyway.
I love that you're being so intentional about your routine and the whole process of staying at home and working from home, because I think, a lot of us have had to react to the situation. And there is that tendency to just sort of, maybe be a little panicked and which, of course, there's going to be anxiety that comes along with this situation no matter what. And that's totally okay. Anybody that's in that situation. But
of course,
I love the idea that, you're being really intentional about your routine and how you're approaching it, because I think that does add a lot of sense of calm and helps with the, anything that's going to come up, because then it makes it easier to recognize it too, as opposed to just saying like, why are we feeling this way? Or, why are things so tense or anxious?
Yeah. It's interesting that conversations I've had with a number of colleagues, both inside and outside of my company, a few of the guys especially, because we are, as architects, we tend to have a more casual work wear style. But a lot of the blokes still do wear suits and ties. And so it's been interesting to see who's responded to that. But a few of the colleagues I was speaking to were saying that they started off just, in shorts and a t-shirt and their slouchy kind of at-home clothes. But as the week went on, they went no. And they actually had to make a change to go back to wearing work clothes. Wow. So like my husband irons a shirt every morning still, so it's part of his routine. Bless. I know I don't do the ironing at home. He's the only ironer in our house.
Nice.
And conveniently, all the clothes that I own that require ironing also require dry cleaning.
Oh, so yeah, not practical.
What a coincidence. Yeah. No. So those guys had gone from going, yeah, we're at home, whatever, it's cash, to actually, no, I need a bit more routine. And another guy I was speaking to was saying that he and his wife are both working from home, and they both started in their sort of study area, which I got the impression was part of a larger open plan area. And he said he's actually had to move into his daughter's bedroom. So during work hours, he uses her desk because he just couldn't focus and he just couldn't do what he needed to do for his work. So not that the daughter's much pleased, but that's his, it's interesting how people are already reacting to this. Oh, hang on, I've still got to do my work. I've still got to be able to produce my outcomes, whatever they are. And they're making these changes to support themselves. So yeah. Yeah.
I had an interesting, I sat in on a webinar on Friday, and it was about remote first working. And the presenter of the webinar was saying that, it's one thing when you work from home for an afternoon or a couple of days, but when it is really this sort of sustained couple of months, 4 weeks to 2 months kind of period, you really do need to find a space that's comfortable, that will allow you to focus. And, so you do really have to be more intentional about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. This is not just, oh, well, I'll finish off this report tonight at home, or where you don't mind doing it on the coffee table or with your glass of wine.
Right.
You actually have to still got to produce, right? So
right. Sit down for like 8 hours. Yeah. It's got to be comfortable, functional. Yeah,
that's right. So true.
All right. So how are you getting outside?
Well, as I mentioned, we're runners, so we go out to run, and going out for a run, as long as there's only 2 people in a group, you're allowed to do that. So whilst we can, we are definitely still doing that. Now, I am totally blessed, completely biased. I live in a beautiful city that has beautiful parks and beautiful river and running tracks and walking trails and cycling paths everywhere. So it's and I live right in our CBD, so it's quite easy for me to just quickly get onto a path. And even if I just wanted to go for a long run, I can just run an out and back on a path. You're right next to a river. There's a few people around. I must admit that runners are friendly generally, right? We're wavers and hi and good morning. I am finding that, and I'm the queen of that, like I love that. But I'm finding I am doing everyone. You can be walking your dog. You could be just, some random dude working. I am saying hello to everyone. It's almost like an ability, a way to get contact with people without actually contacting people, So, so that's been lovely. We're really lucky. It's beautiful here. And whilst they've closed the beaches and they've closed parks, so you couldn't go and have a picnic. You couldn't have a large gathering at any of those spaces. You can still access them for exercise. So that's our main getting outside. If that was to change, we'd be very challenged. We do have a lovely sized apartment, and it's not tiny by any stretch. Still feels small when you're in it all the time, but it's not really that tiny. Our balcony is practically non-existent. It's about a yard deep and 3 or 4 yards long. And it has a massive air conditioning unit on it. And I'm looking over the top of my laptop at it at the moment. And whilst we have a nice big sliding door, you can get fresh air in quite readily. If that was the only going outside, that would be probably do my head in. But, we'll wait and see if we get to those restrictions. But whilst we can, we're out in the parks and out down the river. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. I would imagine that would be definitely helpful.
It's so good. Yeah.
Were you saying before that you're allowed to get out more than once a day or only once a day?
I don't believe they've said only once a day. They have just said that you need to be doing an essential activity, and they've listed what those essential activities are. So going to your work, if it's a job that cannot be done from home, health reasons, whether it's to go to care for a relative or to for your own health, go to the doctor, hospital, whatever. You can exercise and you can do your shopping, but they're basically saying grocery shopping, essential shopping. They're really trying to discourage people from, going for a nice Saturday down the shopping centre or the mall equivalent. So no window shopping anymore. But they're kind of limiting those, and groups of 2, or if you're in a family group, you can go out in a family group if you all live together, although they're suggesting to discourage that, but they're not saying that's not allowed. But Yeah. So look, if you wanted to exercise twice a day, you could probably do it. It's not they haven't said only once, but as long as it's for that activity, and you have to be doing the activity or transiting to the activity.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my final question is, what are you creating?
Well, we haven't got past the list of boring old housekeeping stuff yet.
Me neither. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we fixed some blinds yesterday, and we cleaned the house because our cleaner isn't coming anymore. And we did our taxes. So, boring.
Great to be an adult, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. And we've got the Easter break coming up. So technically we have a 4-day weekend from our working from home situation, which won't feel much different.
Oh,
But we're really busy at work at the moment, and I think for the next month or two, it's going to feel like work and normal outside of work activities will, obviously in our homes, but you know what I mean. It's
yeah.
adding that extra thing in is not something that is readily. It doesn't feel like there's space for that yet. However, I imagine after 2 or 3 months that we might see that work drop down, as even in the construction industry, even if it stays open, we may see that drop down. So I imagine I'll have more time, but I've got a lot of ideas bubbling away around some research and white papers, which I've already touched on today. And one of the things that I would be looking at on the impacts of the work from home experience is we've spent lots of years, last sort of 5 to 10 years, really focusing on wellness at work. So providing spaces in offices for meditation, for respite, for socialization, for all of those things where people can actually just be themselves and support their mental health whilst they're at work. I'm got this idea of doing a paper around what wellness at work at home looks like, because our homes aren't designed specifically for all of those activities, and it's much more readily achievable for a business to invest in those spaces when they've got 500 staff or 10,000 staff all accessing that space. So it becomes quite justifiable. But how would you create that in your own home? And do people have the ability not only the space to do that, but the ability in their minds to set intentions around those spaces? So yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting thing, is that we've spent all this time focusing on what wellness at work looks like. So I'm pretty keen to do some research on wellness at work at home.
Well, and I think too, I think that's awesome, because right now,
Mm,
what better time do we really need to talk
mm,
about wellness at work, at home? Because,
yeah,
I think there's so much heightened stress and tension and anxiety, and we
yeah,
really need wellness at home.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
how are people who, like, I recently just took up meditation, and
yeah,
I've really committed to my yoga practice. And so, it is a question of, like, how are people managing their mental health at
yeah,
home, who previously
yeah,
maybe had those spaces at work and now don't have those
yeah.
spaces at home.
Yeah, and I think that the people who were getting benefit from wellness at work, but I want to say passively, but that might not be the right word, who didn't actively engage in those processes. So they weren't a person who went, I'm feeling a bit stressed, I'm going to take myself off to the quiet area and have some time down. But they were the sort of people that always took a lunch break with the team, and they would sit and they would talk, about the football or about the weather or about holiday plans or whatever, and share a meal with people. We know that that's an instinctive, deep human nature element, is to share stories over meals, right? Over around the campfire, talking and sharing. So a lot of people got a lot of that wellness from those types of experiences, or the
Mhm.
ability to pop out and get a coffee, and that the moment that you were waiting for the coffee was when your brain sort of like switched off and came back. Now that they're at home, and I'm thinking about some specific people that I work with, now that they're at home, they are likely to work all day solid. They are likely to keep working either side of those normal work hours, and actually not get those breaks because they aren't available to them. And I think that people who are in that kind of mindset, the lesson for them will be to actually recognize that, but also take an opportunity to say, taking a break in the middle of my day or the middle of my morning or afternoon is not working or not doing the right thing as an employee. You know, it's actually helping you. And so trying to get that practice in would be fascinating, you know, to really encourage people to do that. And I think it would be important element of that wellness at home or wellness at work at home idea. So yeah, it's quite broad and squishy at the moment as a concept, and I look forward to spending some time honing it down into some kind of, you know, piece, I guess, some kind of opinion piece. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear more about it when you get it less
Yeah.
squishy and more defined.
That's right. Less squishy.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
No, look, I think on the creating part, I love to cook and I never have the time. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. I've been making myself breakfast every morning and I have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm not quite sure how I'm going to give that up when I have to go back to the office, because at the moment I can sit down on time and eat and work at the same time. So yeah, that'll be really fun. But I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, a couple of other little things that I've come across. We had a virtual dinner party with friends of ours last Saturday night where we hooked them up. We're actually using a different platform, but BC type experience. We ordered take-home meals from the same restaurant. We coordinated our wine to see what wine we had at the cellar. My friend sent me her recipe for a cheesecake. So I made my first ever baked cheesecake. And we sat down and we had the computer set up at the end of each other table and had a dinner party, eating the same food, drinking the same wine. And it was actually really, really fun. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know that that's odd because we weren't with them. But I've really loved that sort of creativity of, right, how are we going to make this work? You know, how are we going to do something where we still get to hang out and kind of have a meal together? So so that was really fun. That was really fun. I just thought it might be worth mentioning.
Absolutely. That's totally fun and very unique. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the unique things that are coming out of this are really wonderful. And I saw this great quote that was something like, you know, as we return to quote unquote normal, you know, we have to decide what are the parts of normal that we really want to return to. And obviously in-person dinners is going to be one of them, but you know, this idea of like, you know, what does that look like? And, you know, in the meantime, I love that kind of idea of how you can really find ways to connect with people that are fun and creative and make this a little less lonely, which is just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, thank you so much. This was really great. You were an awesome first guest. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And this was wonderful. So that is our first episode of the Weekly Quarantine. We'll be back next week with another guest. And thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you, Lindsay.